This episode is sponsored by the Botanist Gin. The Botanist is distilled from a unique combination of botanicals hand-foraged on the island of Islay off the coast of Scotland. The gin perfectly encapsulates the flavors and essence of wild Islay. It's beautifully complex and smooth. Among the many botanicals that define the Botanist's flavor are three distinct kinds of wild mint. Today I'm keeping things classic with a Botanist Martini to really let the spirit's flavors shine. One that's going to beautifully complement lamb chops with a mint chimichurri. Let's get down to basics. So like I mentioned, of the Botanist's 22 unique hand-forged botanicals, 3 are different kinds of wild mint. A perfect pairing for both lamb chops and a classic gin martini. First up, if all you have is big ice, go ahead and smash it to make some little ice. Dump the little ice into a glass mixing glass. Add 3 ounces of the Botanist Gin and 1 ounce of dry vermouth. We're then going to stir vigorously until the glass becomes frosty, and then strain using both a cocktail strainer and a fine mesh strainer. Garnish with a single floating mint leaf, and you got yourself one classy cocktail to accompany our classy dinner. Now that I've got something to sip on while I cook, we may begin to cook. So let's start by talking about the most widely available cuts of lamb. First up, we have the individual loin chop. In steak terms, this is sort of like the ribeye of the lamb. Then we've got the smaller and more expensive loin chop. This is more reminiscent of a T-bone steak. On one side of the bone is a tiny little tenderloin, and on the other side is a New York strip-like cut from the loin. Then the most economical option, the lamb shoulder chop. This isn't as pretty of a cut, it's got a bone and a whole bunch of connective tissue in it, but it's still good eating, and can be served pan-fried or broiled just like its peers. And lastly, the very fanciest of all the boys, the French rib roast, which as you can see is just a whole bunch of rib chops all stuck together. Its presentation is made all the more elegant by its exposed bones, which as you can see the butcher didn't do a great job of cleaning, so we're gonna have to tidy those up a bit. Using a small paring knife or an appropriately named bird's beak knife like this one, we're gonna scrape all the excess meat and sinew and silver skin off each bone until they are as clean as a Kidz Bop album. And that's the basic cuts. Now something to keep in mind is a lot of people don't like the gamey flavor of lamb. If one of those people is you, there are a couple things you can do to avoid those grassy metallic undertones. One solution that makes a lot of sense once you hear it out loud is to not buy lamb that has been grass-fed. Usually this is lamb from New Zealand or Australia. Another step to take is to remove as much fat as possible, as this is where most of those gamey flavors reside. Now onto the actual cooking. You can pretty much prepare rib chops, loin chops, and shoulder chops the same way, so because I am most excited about the loin chops, those are the ones that I shall demonstrate. Just like any steak, we're going to season liberally with both kosher salt and freshly ground pepper, and let them stand at room temperature for 30 minutes before cooking. You can then grill, broil, or pan-sear these bad boys, really any cooking method that hits them with a lot of heat very quickly. I'm going to drop mine into a thoroughly preheated cast iron pan with a tablespoon of vegetable oil, flip once a deep golden brown sear has been achieved, make sure that all sides have been blessed with a kiss of heat, and when it comes to lamb, pretty much the rarer that you can tolerate it, the better. Lamb starts to get very tough and its gamey flavors accentuated anywhere past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I usually cook to 110 or 115, so that's the basic method for preparing pretty much any kind of chop. But what if you want to impress a family member, loved one, or cartoon nemesis with a roast rack of lamb? We're going to start very much the same by generously seasoning all facets of the roast with kosher salt and freshly ground pepper. We're going to take a page out of Gordon Ramsay's book and season on a plate so that we can rub it around in any excess spice, and optionally you can cut it in half if you want to present it as 2 separate servings. Maybe interlock the bones so it looks like something out of a medieval romance novel, but save that for plating. First we have to head over to the stovetop. About the only thing we're doing differently here is that we're going to pan roast rather than just pan sear. Especially when dealing with a whole rack, it's very difficult to get that good color on the outside and reach the fabled internal temperature of 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to get as good a sear as we can on all sides before placing them on their racks and finishing in the oven. This might take a few minutes, so it's a good time to sip on your Botanist Martini. If you have a camera in your kitchen, make sure you ham it up as much as possible. That is, until you notice that your lamb is starting to burn, it's time to spring into action and get it into a 400 degree Fahrenheit oven. It might smell good, but beware of oil spatter. However you prepare your lamb, it generally ends up getting sauced or herbed. So we're going to finally chop up some fresh mint and parsley to make a sort of mint chimichurri, but we're going to keep it kind of rustic and chunky, so maybe more like a mint gremolata. The addition of mint will add a fresh menthol quality to brighten up and contrast the richness of the lamb, and pairing it with our cocktail will put our dinner in mint condition. Sorry. Then to add a little brightness, we're going to grate in the zest of 1 lemon. To add some garlickiness, we're going to crush in 1 clove of garlic. And to help everybody get to know each other, a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And of course, kosher salt and freshly ground pepper. I'm also going to add a little sprinkle of red chili flake for some optional heat. Tiny whisk to combine, and our lamb is ready to get gussied up. You can serve this on the side or sprinkle over top and around the plate for an elegant presentation. Drizzle with a little bit of olive oil, and then it's time to dig in. First, I'm going to get a cross section going here to see if I cooked it right. Yes, that is an appropriate medium rare. And I could eat this with a fork and knife, but I like to enjoy my lamb lollipop style, which kind of makes me feel like a giant. And in the end, isn't that why we cook? Alright, fine, I'll use a fork and knife, like a grown-up or whatever. Thank you again to the Botanist Gin for sponsoring today's episode. The unique combination of hand-forged botanicals in the Botanist complements almost any flavor profile, making it an ideal pairing for nearly any recipe. Botanist Martinis are delicious on their own, but alongside this lamb with mint gremolata, the whole experience is really something special. Try the flavors and essence of Wild Isla yourself. Order a bottle of the Botanist on Drizzly. The link is in the video description. Cheers.